What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Justin Davis. Please do subscribe on the Drone Camps channel to get lots and lots of awesome drone reviews. If you like RC airplanes, FPV race quads, and camera drones, please do click subscribe. Check me out on my Patreon as well if you'd like to support my videos. That would be awesome. And today, without further ado, we're going to compare this one to the 2019 version and see how much better the video looks. If there's any difference at all, do you need to get the 2020 version? I would say yes, mainly because the flight time has also been extended on this and they're running some sweet new firmware. So let's go ahead and put this on the ground, make sure the firmware is updated, calibrate the compass, do our spot check, and we'll go ahead and take off and we'll get this guy up in the air and do some comparison. Here we go.
The biggest change is we have 35-minute flight time, 25 grams lighter, and we also have a larger sensor with the ability to do HDR now. It really brings up the dynamic range as well as true 2.7K on this one as well, versus the old one didn't have true 2.7K. It also has the UHD 3840 2160 by 30 frames per second, and it has a bit rate of around 100 megabits per second, which is nice. And it has the removable sticks as well on this one, same as last time. It supports Android and iOS, and it also has an upgraded SD card support up to 256 gigabytes, which is better. And the new Chinese Baidu experimental GPS system now giving us more satellites.
All right guys, so we have the drone turned on. It's on my launch pad. You can check out one of these down in the link below if you need a launch pad. These are pretty cheap and very useful to have if you have a 4K camera drone. So let's go ahead and start the compass calibration procedure. I'm just gonna go ahead and pick up the drone, and without my hand over top of the GPS on the top of the quad, I'm gonna go ahead and rotate it around on the horizontal axis until the app tells me to go vertical with it. We're just gonna keep going. And sometimes it takes a little longer on this horizontal axis. Now it's telling me to face it down, camera down. Looking good. Just keep your eye on the app and it'll tell you you're successful or not. So now we were successful. I'm good to take off. Okay, now that we're up, we're just gonna do a GPS check real quick. And that's one of the most important things to do, guys. Is just go ahead and make sure it stays level and it doesn't do a lot of toilet bowling. If you see that your drone is toilet bowling, it's time to put it back down and recalibrate the compass. So let's go ahead and go up a little bit higher now. Awesome. And you can change your gimbal at this point. Let's go ahead and go out in the field a little bit and we will stop. And it does have sensors on the bottom of it for recognizing surfaces below the drone. Looking good up there though. And I'm gonna go ahead and take a flight out. Let's go ahead and do some forward flying with the Fimi 2020 version. Now we are recording 4K video, so it's looking pretty good. I'm just gonna go ahead and gain some altitude as I go. Give it a little bit of yaw there, kind of lining up this shot that I want. And right now I'm flying line of sight. But the greatest thing I think about the Fimi is the fact that it does have a really reliable system on the app back to your phone, Android or Apple iOS. You can really see where you're going. And there's not a whole lot of lag in this system, which I like. Other apps I have had some issues with in the past, so that's looking pretty good. And we're just gonna go up and turn here. And we're gonna go straight up. We're gonna stop there because I see a tree, a big tree in front of me. Now we're gonna fly along this farm, right along the property line there. And let's just get well above these trees. Let's go ahead and point the camera down just a little further. That way we shouldn't see any props in the view. Definitely don't want to see any props in the view when you're recording for commercial videos, or you're trying to make some cool drone videos. You just don't want props in the view. Most people don't. But I'm still trucking right along here. 65 meters. You've got your altitude here. We've got the distance from the home point. I'm doing about 9.9 meters per second in forward flight. This quad also has sport mode, which is super nice. Looking pretty nice out there. We've had a lot of smoke here recently up in Oregon and Washington. I've got 18 satellites on this baby. That's awesome. But the video is looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and make a turn around and come back toward the home point. We're just going to yaw to the left and let's see how this pan does. Let's see if there's any stuttering in that pan. And I'm still pushing forward full stick here. Nice. And there is our familiar farm and our field. Coming back toward the tree estuary, and there's a little tree farm and estuaries over here. Still looks a little bit smoky up there, I think. Now we're coming back over the field. Let's go ahead and do a down shot. And at this point, I'd like to test out the return to home as well. And I believe you can get some filters for this particular drone if you'd like to get some ND filters. You can play around with the different settings. You can also change with the right hand, or you can change how bright the aperture is, how open it is. So we can turn that down a little bit. And since I don't have any type of ND filter on here, that's going to make a big difference with my video. It's going to make it a little less blown out. And that's what we're looking for. So now I'm going to go ahead. I'm back over our field now. We're going to go ahead and hit return to home. Let's lower that camera a little bit. Gimbal looks pretty crooked here, so we might need another gimbal calibration. But let's go ahead and hit the return to home button here. Now it's in auto return to home. Pretty cool. And we'll wait till it comes back with this automated return to home and land. And I believe this is one of the drones that had the auto shutoff feature, so when it comes back to this home point, it should land and turn the motors off. But we'll see how close it gets to the launch pad. And the biggest thing you have to remember is please do calibrate your compass each time you go to a new location. It's not necessary every time you go out to fly at the same location, but if you're changing different locations, it's always good to start over, calibrate the compass before you take off. A lot of people do it first before they fly every single time. Now we're centered over the home point. We should be making our descent. And if it's off at all, if it's off for yours, you can go ahead and switch back to your drone mode there with this switch, your GPS position hold. You can also fly this guy in ADI mode, which would be kind of like the drone is skating on ice and sliding to one side until you decide to take back the sticks and control the drone. But here it comes. It looks like it's a little bit over the parking lot right here. So we'll see if it actually comes back over to the home point, marked H over there. Hopefully it doesn't want to land on the curve. Just be aware of your surroundings when your drone is coming back. There's no kids around, dogs, anybody practicing fly fishing. That would be bad for your drone. If you get caught up in some fishing line, it'd be a bad day for you to hit someone. So it looks like it's going to land about 3 feet away. Very close, almost hitting the curb right there. And kill the motor, not bad.
Okay, so let's go ahead and do a comparison of both the 2020 version that you see here versus the 2019 version. Now, I did have to recalibrate my gimbal a few times using the 2020 version still, but it's nice you have that option. But the biggest thing is that there's less blue hues in this 2020 version versus the old version. And I'm going to bring both of them up here on the screen so you can see a split screen and you can see the 2019 version on your right. We have the 2020 version on the left, and this is the same location. And it's interesting because a year later we have that same sort of hue, that fog out in the distance, and you can see how both of these handle the close-up video. It looks like the 2020 version has a better handling of the colors close in and close up. It has a little bit larger sensor on the 2020 version as well, so it might be just a little more true to color with that version of the CMOS sensor. An updated sensor and updated firmware really does help. Last year in 2019, the first flight on my 2019 version of my Fimi X8 SE had an issue with the firmware. So if you look really closely right here, you're going to see some kind of drops in the frames. There was a bit of flashing there, and I went back and looked, and there was actually black frames in between some of these frames. So we had some strange flashing issues that we were dealing with there. So and once the firmware was finally updated, I did get some fantastic video in the 2019 version. I really do like the Fimi X8 SE. It was one of the best flying and 4K return to home GPS drones that I had in 2019. It scored extremely high on my channel, and I came back with some fantastic video, and it seemed like the battery would just fly forever. 30 minutes is a long time. So looking at the 2020 version though, again, I feel like I see a little more detail up close. And again, here's an example of two different locations, but that same sort of blue hue that's happening in that 2019 version. The video just does look a lot better in the 2020 version. Now back to the 2019 version full screen, just to give you guys an example. This is unfiltered video right here, and then back to that 2020 video here where you can see a lot of detail close to the ground. And you can change the color if you'd like to. You can open this up in your editor. This seems to have a little more browns in this video, and it also might be that we've had quite a bit of smoke out in the Oregon area. But again, I think the 2020 version looks fantastic. As far as the video goes, it looks really, really great. And now that 2019 version. And right here, we could have used a little less aperture in this video, and it might have helped it out quite a bit. But look at the big difference there. Quite a bit of difference close to the ground. Really nice colors and color saturation with the 2020 version. And I have to say that I think they did their homework on this new version of it. We have a lot of new key features to take away with the 2020 version. I think it's worth the purchase. So you're looking at new features on this one. There's your larger sensor right away, 35-minute flight time, just a couple more minutes, but it's also lighter and faster. We get the true 2.7K, the new firmware, and HDR support for video and photos. That's major. Also larger 256 SD card support, less blue hue, new flight modes, and extended range on this one. So that makes this version well worth the purchase if you're considering the Fimi X8. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below, guys. I'll see you on the next one.